The Last Crow. The candlelight in Winterfell guttered low as the storm deepened. Snow pressed against the windows like breath, and beyond the walls, the world turned white. High above the courtyard, a single raven launched from the rookery tower, wings black against the grey morning, and vanished northward into the storm. Its flight carried over frozen forests and half-buried keeps, past the ruins of Queen's Crown and the still waters of Long Lake, until at last the dark shape of Castle Black emerged from the veil of snow. Its towers leaned like old sentinels, the wall behind it glimmering faintly, cracked, thawed, and breathing frost like some wounded god. The raven spiraled down through the wind and landed upon a sill dusted with rime. Inside, Jon Snow sat alone in his quarters. The chamber was small, warmed by a single brazier, and the steady presence of Ghost, who lay near the hearth, white as the snow outside, his red eyes half closed, always watching. On the table before Jon lay several sheets of parchment, their ink still glistening. He read them once more slowly, deliberate, before rolling each tightly and pressing them with black wax. The sigil stamped upon them was no longer the crow of the watch, but the Arctic bear of the Northern Guard. When the last was sealed, he sat back in silence. The wind clawed faintly at the shutters, carrying with it the echo of an age that was dying. For a long time, he did not move. Then he rose. He wore pale leather armor of a white and grey wash, bound with iron, not southern plate but northern craft, supple and silent. Across his shoulders hung the great cloak of the Arctic bear, its fur white as hoarfrost, its weight both mantle and memory. At his belt he fastened a slim dagger of dragon glass, its hilt carved from pale weirwood, the gift of Gendry Baratheon, delivered by Tormund Giantsbane with a grin and a jest. "Heard you lost your last one down south. Figured this one won't melt so easy." Jon had only nodded, his thanks quiet but sincere. Now, as he took Longclaw from the table and buckled it to his side, the steel gave a soft sigh against its scabbard, the sound of endings. He pulled on his gloves, heavy sealskin lined with wool, and crossed to the door. Ghost stirred, rising to follow. For a moment Jon paused, looking back at the brazier's dying glow. The fire within the coals pulsed once, faint, then gone. He whispered something to himself that even Ghost did not hear, and opened the door. Cold rushed in. Snow drifted across the upper steps where the ramparts met the courtyard, painting the stones in shifting grey and white. Jon stood there for a while, silent, his cloak lifting in the wind like the wings of some great white bird. Below, the courtyard of Castle Black had changed beyond recognition. Stalls of timber and hide lined the walls where once the watch drilled. Free folk traders moved among soldiers of the Northern Guard, exchanging furs and iron in uneasy peace. And at the far end, near the broken gate, stood a small gathering, the last brothers of the Night's Watch, their black cloaks tattered, but their spines still straight. Jon watched them for a long moment, his breath curling in the cold. Ghost pressed close beside his leg, ears pricked, the low wind whispering through his fur. Then Jon turned and descended the stairs. Each step echoed softly in the stillness. When he reached the yard, the murmur of men fell away, leaving only the sound of wind against stone. Before him stood two lines, the Northern Guard, cloaked in grey and white, and the crows cloaked in black. The old and the new, facing each other across the frost. Jon stopped between them. "You shall take no wife, hold no lands. Father, no children." The words lingered in the frozen air like ghosts, brittle as the frost that clung to the black stones of Castle Black. Before Jon Snow stood the last of the Night's Watch, a handful of weary men, bound by oaths that no longer held meaning. Most had long fled south or joined the Northern Guard when the watch began to rot from within. Now traders passed freely through the gate, southern gold and northern iron exchanging hands in the very yard where vows were once spoken. Castle Black had become a relic, half ruined, half reborn. The walls sagged, the towers leaned, and in the courtyards where drills once rang, there now stood makeshift stalls of timber and hide. Free folk women haggled with blacksmiths from Wintertown, and the air smelled faintly of pine resin and smoke. Wreaths of evergreen and bone hung from the old ramparts, not for the watch, but for the winter festivals of the free north. It was no longer a fortress. It was a corridor of trade, a crossroads between worlds. Jon's breath misted before the scarred face of the wall, a jagged monument to an age that had passed. In front of him, the last brothers of the watch stood silent. Some wept. Others stared hollow-eyed at the man they had once called Lord Commander. He was no longer one of them. He drew his gloves tighter and turned to his captain, a nameless soldier of the north, face hidden beneath fur and frost. "Seize it," he said quietly. The man hesitated. "Commander?" Jon's voice did not rise. "The wall and all its castles, all of it, they belong to the north now." A ripple of motion followed. Boots crunched in the snow as northern soldiers moved to take control of the gates, the towers, the armories, the stables. Black banners were lowered, their crow sigils falling into the frost. In their place rose white and grey, the banner of the Northern Guard, an Arctic bear, its mouth froze half open in a silent roar. The traders and travelers fell still, watching from the edges of the yard. The old world was ending, though few could say what new one would rise in its place. Jon faced the last of the watch. His voice carried across the courtyard, low but unyielding. "The night's watch is ended. Its watch is done." He paused. "As for you few who remain, thank you for your service. Your watch is over. You are free men now. You may take the pledge of the Northern Guard, and you will be treated as brothers still. But there is no longer need for the watch. The North will guard its own." He looked once more toward the broken gate, the wind, and the endless white beyond. "You are released," he said at last. "Choose freely." Ravens burst into the sky, black wings scattering against the dawn. By nightfall, every hall in the north would know the wall was unmanned, and the north stood guard over itself.